Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker, and we're looking at teas and kind of expanding our tea education. One of the things that you may want to note about teas and learning more about teas is I just sent out a monthly newsletter, and this month it was a review of the highlights of February, but in that also I did create or wrote a short summary of the kind of the tea calendar, the times when teas are harvested throughout the world, or at least some significant teas, some of the more well-known teas are harvested, and so that it can help you be a guide for you to know things like when you should start looking for a particular type of tea that you may be interested in. There are other things that you may find worthwhile in the newsletter, so go ahead and if you look up at the upper right portion of the Walker Tea Review, you'll notice that there's a sign-up area for that newsletter. It only comes out once a month. I'm not going to be attacking you with emails, so give that a try if you like. And while that's going on, let's go ahead and talk about this particular tea. You may be signing up for the newsletter as you watch along as well. So this tea that I've got is a Chinese Oolong, and I've got out my Gaiwan here. My water's been brought to a boil, and I'm just going to use my finger and I'm going to draw out enough of the tea to really cover the bottom, say 1 inch to 1.5 inch diameter. I don't see the bottom of the bowl this way, and that looks pretty good. Let me just toss in one more hanging off the side there. This is about a 4-ounce Gaiwan. My water's been brought to a boil, and I'm going to add enough so that a little bit of water will rest above the rim of the lid when I put the lid on. Kind of keeps it, makes a seal there, so that will be good. Let me set this water out of the way. Put this lid on. Let that steep for a while. A little bit of water ran over the sides, but that's just fine. Let me actually kind of push that down as I slide this over. Carry this over rather. So there we are, let that steep for a while, and I can introduce this tea, talk a little bit more about it. This is from an online company, LifeInTeacup. It's there, you can find their site, LifeInTeacup.com. It is described as hand-processed WuYiShuiXian Heavy Roast Grade 1. Okay, you can find this. Now, LifeInTeacup, you'll as you're scrolling through and trying to shop and look for products, all products are listed on one page according to category, and you'll have you may have all the oolongs on one page, and then you may have all the Yunnan teas, whether that be white or pu'er, combined on one page, for example. But you can get 6 grams of the 2010 harvest. They do have some of the 2009 harvest available, but 6 grams of the 2010 harvest available for $3. Let's see, these were both the 2009 and 2010 were the spring harvest, and these, as the hand processed aspect of the title indicates, this was a manually processed tea. So there's lots of hands-on. There's a lot of our skill of the tea crafters, the tea masters involved with this tea. Okay, we're going to go ahead and talk a little about the 3 aspects of this tea: the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. First off, let's talk a little bit about this dry leaf here. One, I should say, in my notes and talking about this tea, if you were to purchase a sample of this tea, because it is a heavy roast, when you first open the package, you may get some very strong roasted, smoky heat type of fire type of notes. There's kind of some cigarette ashtray going on in there. There may be a little bit of a roasted coffee note that you may pick up as well. But if you'll open up the package, let this tea breathe a little bit. What you'll find is that will moderate to a certain degree, and you'll be able to, this tea will change in its character ever so slightly as the tea is allowed to breathe a little bit more. So that's something to consider. Looking at this leaf though, let's talk a bit about that. These are nice, actually these teas have a pretty good sheen about them. I mean, they've got some they've got almost a luster to them just by looking at them, indicating that there's a bit of the tea oils have been trapped and preserved quite well. You'll notice that these are a dark, rich seal brown, ochre type color, grayish brown, however you want to, whatever moniker you want to put on that. The leaves are crinkled, and they're not as tightly wrapped as what I've seen from others that may be almost like a twisted up, almost kind of like oh, how should I say, like the word that comes to mind is like a quill, or a tightly rolled type of feather, very compact. This one is more of just kind of crumpled and squeezed along the length of the vein here, and so that it becomes a more relaxed looking tea in that sense. That would be an indication that this tea is going to steep and loosen up and yield more flavor and aroma more quickly, but not sure yet. The sizes that you're getting are range from a full-size leaf that can be up to 2 inches or in that neighborhood, and then you have some portions that are of course smaller than that. Now, let us move on then and talk a little about this liquor. That should have given our tea enough time to really, I'm going to kind of stir that up just to see how well those have loosened up. The color of the liquor looks nice, so this one should have something to talk about here. Taking my bowl here by the index finger and thumb mostly, and holding the lid in place with my index finger, gives us this pour like that, shaking out those last few drops that may be a little bit stronger because they were down at the bottom closer to the leaves. Now let's give this a smell. First off, the positive aspect is that a lot of that harsh, almost overly harsh kind of roasted aspect has really fallen by the wayside, and so what you're left with, there's a light kind of tartness, kind of fruity fruit tanginess here. Combined with, there's still a little bit of a roasted or a heat note there. There's something that's kind of toasted oat happening, or toasted rice happening underneath that that initial mild fruit tart tanginess there. And like I said, underneath that is a little bit of toasted rice or kind of toasted oat type note. Not the most intense aromas. Those aromas are present, but they don't stand out like compared to some Shuixians that I've come across. So, looking at the wet leaf itself, though, the leaves have unfurled quite well. They are actually there's a greenness here. There's a dark, almost. I want to say almost a grayish green present. So what look like rich dark brown leaves is actually showing up here with a bit more of a grayish color. Actually, you can tell that this was a large leaf, although the top and the bottom have been separated from this piece. You can see the jagged edges. So at side to side, this is a fairly wide, broad leaf here. Okay, put that in there as well. Just one more piece that here has not yet unfurled as well. Feels a little bit thicker. The wider piece that did fan out feels pretty thin, feels pretty supple, indicating that it was a more delicate leaf than you had others here that are kind of got a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker feeling on there, that they don't necessarily feel like they're supple enough, elastic enough that they're going to stretch out very much, but if you were to apply much pressure, it would just kind of tear there. So that takes care of our wet leaf, really. Talking about oxidation, you don't see, if there is any oxidation, or rust type of blotchiness there. It's present just on the very tips, jagged tips on the sides of the leaf there. Okay, now let's get on to this liquor then. First off, nice kind of a darker type of honey color, close to something like an apple juice. I mean, there's almost that kind of reddish brownness to it. Aroma's coming off pretty well. Again, a little bit of that kind of toasted, roasted, more of an oat in this case, combined with something in there that still has a hint of being stone fruit-like, and that being, say, peach, apricot, that kind of aspect. Now let's give this one more look through the cup here. Fairly good clarity, not the brightest. This one is not as bright as some of the others that I've looked at, but let's give it a shot here. I'm pausing here. I'm stumbling a little bit because this one just, I was expecting more, to be honest. I was looking for Shuixian can have, like I said, that roasted aspect. It can have a little bit of a kind of like a peach tanginess or a tartness there, combined with what reacts in the back of the mouth, and the aftertaste is a little bit of a sweet aspect. This particular tea, well, and I should say combined with, there's often a fairly soft, silken over towards a little bit of a thicker, lightly thicker than silken type of texture that leaves a coating on the mouth. And so with that aftertaste, it just kind of builds up this kind of gummy, sweet type of feel in the mouth. This one is generally falling short in several of those categories. I'm getting faint amounts of that gummy sweetness, the faint amounts of that texture. Very little of the peachy type aromas and texture here. Not a lot amount of, there's not any tartness, yet it's not that smooth either. My palate, there would be several people who say that tartness can be a sign of a lower quality, and that the higher the quality, the smoother it gets. I call my palate still crude, but I still appreciate just a light tinge, a tingle of tartness there. This one just is not bringing that. Yet on the other hand, it's not that fully smooth either. But to be fair, this tea, this is coming out of the starting gate. This is talking about something that was steeped once. Perhaps subsequent steepings will give more. And I say this for you, and it depends on how you prepare the tea and deliver that tea, serve it, I should say. This is something that you would have to consider as to how you, when you open your package, and how you let that tea kind of breathe before you break it in and start using it. This would be a tea that just coming, like I said, coming out of the starting gate, coming out, taking it out of the package, putting it right in your vessel. Initial steepings would not necessarily be that prominent. Subsequent steepings, you would look for a lot more. And so I kind of give this tea a conditional. I want to step back a little bit and say, just depending on how well you present it, how well you prepare it, you could get more out of it. So I'm going to give this tea an 88, saying that skill is involved in raising your personal skill, who can be involved, and the time, the way you treat the dry leaf as well. will determine how well you're able to raise that score in your perception for yourself. So come back to Walker Tea Review and learn about the tea as it stands itself, and how you can kind of pull teas a little bit more out of it as well.